G'day, it's Paula here and welcome to another scrapbooking video. I'm so happy you joined me today. This video is an adaptation of the 2-hour workshop designed by Kazaz consultant Cheryl Langfield. It's an adaptation because I don't have all the supplies listed, but that's okay, I'll use what I have. This video will show you how to create an Aussie themed double page layout using these techniques: stamping, heat embossing, ink smooshing and die cutting. We are using the Greetings from Australia collection, which I'll link below. Let's get into it. Firstly, I take this 1-inch cotton ribbon and cut into two 30cm strips. I've got my craft mat out and I'm going to open up this fresh jar of Stickles Glitter Gel. This gel is sticky as and has little stars in it and glitter. So I use first of all the lid to spread it on, and then I use my palette knife to spread it thinly. And then I set it aside to dry. Just have a look at all those little stars, sparkly stars. Really nice. Next we are doing some ink smooshing. So I've cut 2 pieces of white card into 6 by 6 inches. And then we're using the Distress Ink Hickory Smoke and pressing that ink pad onto our craft mat a couple of times, spritzing that with some water and also my cardstock with some water, and then dip the white card into the puddles a couple of times until your card is all covered. And then dry it off with your heat tool. This takes some time and you'll see that the paper is curling because it's wet, but as you heat it, it flattens out. And then dip it in again. Am I gonna, yep, there we go. Dip it in again and then dry that off again. And this just gives, and you just repeat this process until you get a good color variance all over your piece of cardstock. Just dipping that in there and getting a few more spots in there. And so when I'm happy with that, I set that one aside and I repeat the same process with the gathered twigs, Distress Oxide. So I'm making one grey piece and one brown piece. And these pieces we're going to do some stamping and embossing on. So here we are now onto some stamping and some embossing. And first of all, make sure your ink smooshed pieces are really dry because your embossing powder will stick in places you don't want it to stick. But prep your pieces with a puff static away pillow, and that ensures that the embossing powder only sticks to the sticky ink we stamp with. And this time we're using Distress Oxide ink because it takes a little longer to dry. And so I'm stamping with the gathered twigs, and I'm using this very cute wombat stamp from the range. It's one of my favorite animals. And I'm also using my precision press, which means if I don't get a great impression or enough ink on, I can stamp it again. And so then I take it over to a little box I've got off to the side there, and I sprinkle on some embossing powder. And today I'm using just some silvery powder that I had in my stash. It's going to make my wombat all glittery. And before I heat emboss, I'm stamping the sentiments I've chosen as well. And I've chosen, and these are not from the range that I'm using, Greetings from Australia. It's just some that I had to hand. Your friendship means so much, families grow together. And then I'm using the heat to melt all that glittery embossing powder, and we get a lovely shiny image, perfect for a Christmas layout. So I repeat the stamping and embossing on the grey piece of smooshed paper, which you can see up in the right side of the frame, and but using the sketchy kookaburra stamp and the bottle brush stamp. So now I'm making a wreath, and so I've just got a piece of white cardstock, and I'm stamping in speckled egg now using a scribbly circle, large, and then I will go over that using the leaves and the bottle brush from that set to stamp around the circle and make a wreath. It won't matter about the overstamping in the center because that will get covered with a photo, and And so I cover that image with embossing powder and melt it with the heat tool. So the next step is to stamp this background stamp called Aussie Christmas Background on these 2 pieces of white cardstock, which measure 3 by 6 inches. Using speckled egg and pine needles this time, and covering the embossing powder and then melting that with the heat tool. So I'm just using those 2 colors, but sort of blending them in the middle, so they sort of blend in the middle to make a different color. And this is what we will cut. We'll cut tags from these pieces. So now I am fussy cutting these images. So I'm just going to fussy cut all these images that I'm showing you here now, and here they are all fussy cut. So next we're going to do some die cutting. And so using the circle die, I'm just picking out a suitable image, and this photo is going on top of our wreath. So I run that through my die cutting machine, which is an old Kazaz one, but Kazaz supplies Gemini in multiple sizes actually, if you're interested at all. But anyway, my base pages are 2 sheets of crimson SB Essentials, and we need an extra sheet to mat the photos. And my photos are 6 by 4 inches, which is what I generally like to use. But I think the workshop suggests the photos be trimmed down to 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 and 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. But I'm just matting them as is. I'm using the larger size today. I attached my circle photo to my my little wreath that I made, and then this sheet of brown sugar cardstock is being trimmed down to 8 by 12 inches and 4 by 6 inches. And that little 4 by 6 inch piece is going to be on the left side of the page. It's going to be tucked behind, and this is called the Golden Garland cardstock. I'm cutting that in half, making sure the garland stays intact. And then, so we're going to fussy cut out one of those garlands, and then we're going to use the opposite sides of the green side of the garland cardstock. And then I'm trimming the gum wreath paper down to 11 by 11 inches, but just making sure I take 1/2 inch off each side so that that wreath stays intact. And then we're going to cut that piece in 6 inches, and so I'll have 2 pieces, one 6 by 11 inches. We'll use the gum wreath side, and the other piece will be 5 by 11 inches, and we'll use the pink side. So now I'm fussy cutting around this golden garland with my scissors, and I'll just leave a little border onto it, but I won't bore you with all those details. So there it is, all cut out. So onto some ink blending. And I'm just using hickory smoke and my ink blending tool to edge all the pieces. And I'm just using hickory smoke on the images that were stamped in hickory smoke. And then I will use gathered twigs around the other images and the tags, and finally speckled egg around the wreath. And this is where the recording ended. So I'm just adding some stills of the completed layout, and I'm so sorry I can't show you the assembly, but I'll try to talk you through it. And I've also added some frames with just the text of what I did. So I suggest if you are actually following along with this tutorial, you would probably need to pause your video and just go back to the image. So this is the left page, and so we attach the golden garland. So I'll just let you read that. We attach the golden garland half sheet and the green side to the crimson sheet with a gold border to the outside, and attach the cotton ribbon to the left side of the gum wreath 6 by 11 paper, and trim the ribbon if needed. And then attach this piece approximately 3/4 inch from the edge of the crimson piece, centering it, and then place the photo mats on the layout as shown, with the tags and images tucked behind or placed atop using Magic Mount. And then on the right hand page, It's pretty much the same thing, but the cotton ribbon goes along the bottom on the brown sugar essentials, and I think I left out the pink side of the gum wreath, which was meant to be attached there, but that's okay. So thanks for watching my little tutorial, and I hope you'll join me again soon when I make another video and when I figure out how to make sure that my videos record all the way through.